Across the world, there are a few places without snakes. And these places all have one thing in common. They are islands. Other than that, some places are simply too cold for snakes to survive there. Snakes can be found pretty much anywhere. They can be found as far north as Scandinavia, and as far south as South Argentina, and even South Africa. Here are the three biggest countries without snakes: Ireland, Iceland, New Zealand. There are also some states and places which have no snakes, such as Alaska and Siberia. Other than that, many small Pacific islands don't have snakes either, such as Kiribati, Tuvalu, Nauru, and the Marshall Islands. You also won't find any snakes in Greenland, Antarctica, central and northern Canada, northern Finland, and anywhere north of the Arctic Circle. You see, snakes don't like the cold because they are cold-blooded and therefore depend on the environment to keep them warm. But if that's the case, then why are there no snakes in Ireland and New Zealand? Why are there no snakes in Ireland? Snakes first begin to appear in the fossil record about 150 million years ago. But at this point, Ireland was far removed from any other landmass, so snakes had no way to get there. Not only that, but back then, Ireland was much colder than it is today. While these days it has the Gulf Stream, which keeps Ireland and the UK warmer than other countries on the same latitude, 150 million years ago it didn't. While scientists think there may have been a land bridge between Ireland and England after the last ice age, for whatever reason, snakes never crossed it. Perhaps it's because prehistoric Ireland was too cold for them. Why are there no snakes in New Zealand? New Zealand is geographically isolated from any other country. It would take a monumental feat for an Australian snake, like the coastal taipan, to get to New Zealand. It is possible for snakes to make their way to new habitats by crossing the sea, either because they swam or a current took them, but the distance between New Zealand and Australia is just too great. According to the NZ Department of Conservation, even sea snakes only rarely visit. Yellow-bellied sea snakes and sea kraits occasionally pass by, but the water is too cold as it's outside of their tropical range, so they leave. Other parts of the world with no snakes. Iceland is another example of a volcanic island that has never been connected to another continent. The fact that the Atlantic Ocean around Iceland is so cold also stops any snakes from swimming across, say from North America, or the UK. There are some tropical islands without snakes. Cape Verde is a group of islands similar to Caribbean countries, but off the coast of Africa instead. These islands, too, were formed by volcanic eruptions underwater. Because of their distance from the African mainland, they've never been colonized by snakes. Out past Australia, in the South Pacific, many small islands don't have snakes. These include the following: Kiribati, which is a group of islands in the middle of the Pacific. Tuvalu, south of Kiribati, which is a group of small reef islands. Nauru, which is an 8-square-mile island, that only has the Bimini blind snake. The Marshall Islands, which again only has the Bimini blind snake. Other than that, places like the North or South Pole, Greenland, the far northern reaches of Canada and Russia don't have snakes. It's just too cold for them to survive there. Hawaii is another tropical island that doesn't have snakes. Like other islands that were formed by volcanoes, and are distant from any other landmass, snakes haven't managed to reach it. However, since Hawaii has a large population for a tropical island, irresponsible owners have abandoned their snakes and let them loose. Does Canada have snakes? Canada does have snakes, but only in the south. The Massasauga rattlesnake, for example, can be found in southern Ontario. Other rattlesnakes, like the western diamondback rattlesnake and the prairie rattlesnake, extend north into Canada, too. But if they were to head even further north, it's too cold for them. So, the northern reaches of British Columbia, Alberta, and Manitoba are far too cold. Not only are these places too cold in the winter, but they also aren't warm enough for snakes in the spring, fall, and maybe even summer, too.